15 and the Wilderness Resort in Wisconsin Dells are treating you to a birthday 4-pack of water park passes. We draw a new name each Friday, so please make sure you enter those birthdays at least 3 days in advance. If today's your birthday, a big happy birthday to you.
And we'd like to wish a very special 101st birthday to Jake Christopherson from Middleton. Jake is a World War II veteran. He served in the Navy, stationed in the Pacific from 1942 to 1945. After the war, he was a postal carrier in Reedsburg, where he was the founding member of the Reedsburg Toastmasters Club. So a very happy birthday to you, Jake.